Thank you very much, Jai Satchidanand, to everybody. It's lovely seeing you all, and we've been enjoying some really lovely bhajans and satsangs. I think I need to learn some Nepali now. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. It's very humbling. I still have a long way to go on my spiritual journey, but I'll share some of my thoughts and my experiences with you. I'm sure, like myself, many of you are feeling very blessed at the moment that Guru Maharaj has given us so much access to satsangs. We've got access to almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of satsangs. And I know a lot of us celebrated Vibhuji's birthday last week. We joined many of the virtual platforms around the world, so we indeed are very blessed. And I was talking to a Premi just yesterday, and she was expressing just how grateful she was that the satsangs kept us so grounded during the times of the lockdowns over the last couple of years, when all around us so many people were feeling trapped in their houses with their families. They couldn't cope with the sudden change in their lives and the change in circumstances. And Brahmis all over the world were blissfully listening to the glory of satsang. We were able to have darshan of the Holy Family from the live webcasts, and we're still very lucky that to this day we have that. However, I was listening to a satsang last week, and one of the Bhajis was talking about, again, how many satsangs there are, how incredible it is that through the power of technology, it's suddenly opened up for us to be able to see and meet each other across the world so very easily. And she was saying we're so privileged. However, are we listening to the satsangs wholeheartedly, and are we listening with full concentration? And for me, this raised a really good question, because when I look back at myself, and I'm sure many of you may be able to relate to this as well, yes, there are times when we are sat and we're fully immersed in the satsang, we're taking on the words being said by so many of the Mahatmas, Bhajis, and indeed so many Premis. But there are also times when we have a satsang on in the background. You're busy in the middle of a day, you're doing things, you're cooking, you're driving, you're at work, you're in the middle of a sports field, and we know that our full attention isn't truly on the satsang. It's on something completely different. And really, this is where satsang makes you raise a mirror to yourself and asks you, are we listening to this satsang correctly? I can hand on my heart say, if I'm only half listening to a satsang, it's not going in. I'm not taking on board the messages that I really should. My mind's on other things. I'll be thinking about jobs, I've got to get school uniforms ready for tomorrow, I have a work project to hand in. I've convinced myself, yes, of course I'm listening to satsang. Look at all these satsangs I'm joining. Of course I'm staying on the path of spirituality. But like this, we're very good at tricking ourselves into thinking that we're doing things correctly. So like I said, when we listen to the words in the satsang, it really raises a mirror to ourselves, and for me it reminds me to check myself. Am I doing what I think I'm doing, or is my mind tricking me into taking an easy route that, no, it's fine, carry on behaving as you are? Satsang and spirituality, it helps us to be true to ourselves. It helps us to be more accountable to ourselves, and really it gives us the signposts to guide us and ensures we're able to continue doing what we know is true. It helps to remove those negative attributes that are counterproductive to a peaceful mind, and in Gujarati we would say satsang helps to remove that gachura from your mind. The mind is very good at tricking us into thinking that all our actions are correct, because it wants instant satisfaction, it wants instant gratification. The mind wants what it wants, and it will do anything to get it. Let's take the example of a diabetic person. And many people across the world have diabetes, and they work so hard to control their intake of sugar. Yet, if you put a piece of chocolate cake in front of them, if their self-control wavers even for just one moment, their mind says, it's okay, just have it this once, it doesn't matter. They will eat the cake. but then they will have to work very hard to reduce the effects of that sugar on their body, and all for that one moment of satisfaction for their senses. And I include myself in this. I also find it very hard to resist chocolate cake. Now, if you keep giving in just to satisfy your taste, just to satisfy your senses, your diabetic control can become so bad. In the worst case scenario, you end up having your leg amputated, or even worse, you go into a diabetic coma. And this is a direct result of the control of our mind and of the desires and the wants that it has. Even Arjun said to Krishna Bhagwan, he said, "I can shoot an arrow into the sky, tie the wind up into a bundle, yet I cannot control my mind." So Arjun can do something with his arrow which even to you and I seems impossible, yet he cannot grab hold of the wanderings of his mind. And it sometimes does seem like an impossible task. So many people desire to have a Western way of life, yet here in the UK, 1 in 10 people here have to take antidepressants, many of whom need it to be able to cope with the ups and downs of life that all of us expect to come across in our lifetimes. Depression here is so common that we have to question ourselves, what is it about this lifestyle here that is causing so many people to be so depressed? People's states of mind are so overloaded with the commotion of daily life that they simply cannot cope. They cannot find that clarity or calmness in the world. And we're chasing so much unnecessary stuff in life that our desires take over so much. We introduce that chaos ourselves, but then we find it difficult to navigate a way out of this chaos. That person got a promotion over me, I want a bigger house, I want my children to do well in sports, I want to get lots of likes on my Instagram and Facebook posts, and so on and so forth. And so we get so sucked into thinking that what our lives should look like, that when we don't get it, we're unable to cope. So how do we navigate our way out of this, away from these wants, from these desires? And I was reading Mind the Middle Man recently, and one of the books from the ashram, and in it there were some really lovely examples of what we do to ourselves, and they resonate quite deeply with me. So imagine if we've got a car and we are the driver, the car is working fully, it's in perfect working order. We as the driver, we have good eyesight and we've got the ability to drive that vehicle safely and well. But you get in the car and the windscreen is filthy, it's covered in mud, it's covered in dust. You start driving the car, you know where you want to get to, but you cannot see where you're going. You've no idea if you're on the right path, or even if you're going to get there. Even worse, your chances of crashing or causing a dangerous accident because you can't see are very high. It's not that you can't see because your eyes aren't working, it's that you haven't bothered cleaning the windscreen. Now imagine when you get in the car, you use the knowledge that you're given when you learn to drive that car. If I click this handle, the wiper blades will start and the windscreen will become clean. If it's very dirty, you'll get out of the car and clean the windscreen by hand. And then you're able to safely navigate wherever you want to get to. You know exactly what roads you're taking, and your risk of having an accident is much, much lower. And in the same way, when we embark on a spiritual journey, our minds are so overloaded with the daily chaos and the commotion of life, the wants and desires that I've just described, our minds are so muddied we cannot see to navigate the path that we want to take. We know where we want to go, but we just don't have the clarity of mind or the calmness of mind to get there. But slowly, the more we listen to Satsang, the more we meditate, it cleanses this mud so that we can see better. We have more clarity, we have calmness, and we know where we are going in life, what path we are taking. But we have to use the tools that we've been given, Satsang and meditation, in the correct way. Now, meditation helps us to remove that illusion of Maya. However, Satsang holds that mirror up to ourselves to make sure that we see what we're doing. It makes us see that it is us also not letting go of the Maya, we are holding on to it. And the perfect description of this is a person who is holding on very tightly to a tree. They've wrapped both arms around it, but yet they're complaining, this tree's not letting go of me, this tree's not letting go of me. And that is so true of the human mind, isn't it? It tricks us into thinking that no, we're not holding on to anything in life, everything else is holding on to us. We are keeping ourselves so busy and we're not able to detach from it that we keep reinforcing this message to our mind. Eventually we become so overwhelmed that we can't cope with how busy we've become because we won't let go of that tree. And satsang and meditation, it helps us to slow our minds down. Not in the physical way where we are so slow we cannot keep up with jobs, family life, but it slows our mind down to a much calmer and much more manageable frequency. It gives us that clarity to see things clearly and this peace of mind that so many of us desire. But after a while, the mind can become muddied again with expectation, and much like if you leave the car windscreen without cleaning it regularly, it will become dirty again. So in the same way, we need to continue to listen regularly to satsang, wholeheartedly, with our full attention, and look closely at the mirror that it holds up, just to keep us in check. We have to be accountable to ourselves. And even in meditation, and I count myself in this, we have this desire to experience things straight away. And many of us give up if we don't have the same experiences that many of us did when we were first initiated. And we live in a society today where modern technology is so amazing, it brings things to us very instantly. We're forgetting how to be patient. So if I want a new TV, I can order it online right now and it will be delivered to my house tomorrow morning. Materialism is literally at our fingertips. I can send a message now to, say, Pritiji in Israel, and she'll receive it in seconds. I'll then spend the next hour or so checking my phone to say, oh, why hasn't she responded? I know she got the message. Then I become irritated or annoyed and have so many other negative emotions that are all generated from this one message. And so these desires are really controlling our mind. And in this way, when Arjuna was expressing his frustration, his inability to control his mind, he was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and he was about to go into battle with many of his family on the opposing side. And we all know the story of the Bhagavad Gita where Shri Krishna then initiated Arjuna with spiritual knowledge. But Shri Krishna didn't say to Arjuna, now you have knowledge, your experience will come instantaneously. No. He said, with patience and with the power of perseverance, pursue this path. So he gave Arjuna spiritual knowledge and said, with patience and with the power of perseverance, pursue this path. Now we've touched on patience, but what is perseverance? Perseverance is when you continue to carry out an action in spite of the difficulties you face when you're doing it. What difficulties do we face when we meditate? Again, it's the mind, controlling the mind, calming the mind. My interpretation of this really is that Lord Krishna is telling us also we need to have that perseverance, we need courage and resilience to break free from the shackles of the mind. Imagine we're in a prison cell, our hands are tied by shackles, there are bars preventing us from leaving the cells, then there are the prison walls themselves that are a barrier. Now all of these things, they're stopping us from escaping this prison. And now imagine your mind is this prison cell, and to escape from the shackles of your mind you have to break free of similar barriers. There are so many of them, and this takes time, this takes perseverance. You can run away from your physical worries and problems, but you really cannot run away from your mind, not unless you break free from its prison, from the bondage of this Maya. So spirituality, satsang, meditation, it all enables us to do this. It gives us that inner freedom, and this is the true meaning of peace of mind. So, dear Premies, let's continue on this path with the patience and perseverance under the guidance of Sri Guru Maharaj-ji. And thank you also to all the Bhaijis, Mahatmajis for all their wonderful satsang programs, and also for the organisers of this program today. Thank you so much for listening. Jai Shri Satchidanand.